Deep in the remote rock shelters of northern Australia, archaeologists made a discovery that completely shattered our understanding of human history. Buried beneath ancient layers of soil were stone tools, handcrafted by human hands, dated to an astonishing 65,000 years ago. Think about that for a second. At that moment in time, there were no metal ships, no compasses, no written maps, and no global trade networks. And between that coastline and the nearest human population lay a deep, treacherous ocean. Nobody walked to Australia. Somebody had to sail there. If you traveled back 70,000 years, the Earth would look familiar from space, but completely alien on the ground. Sea levels were over 300 feet lower than they are today, because massive glaciers locked up vast amounts of the planet's water. Coastlines extended miles out from modern beaches, and forests grew where deep ocean waters sit today. The planet was cold, harsh, and brutal. The humans living back then were biologically identical to us, capable of complex thought, artistic expression, and emotional bonds. But for decades, mainstream science assumed these early humans lacked one critical technology: boats. The traditional story of human expansion was almost entirely about walking out of Africa, across Asia, and over icy land bridges into the Americas. Walking explains a lot, but it hits an absolute dead end the moment the ground stops and deep water begins. Yet, on some of the most isolated islands on Earth, stone tools and ancient hearths keep turning up. The math is brutal, and the conclusion is unavoidable. Our ancestors built ocean-crossing vessels far earlier than anyone believed possible. Now, to understand just how insane this was, you have to realize that the open ocean offers a human being virtually nothing. There is no fresh drinking water, no shelter from punishing sun or freezing waves, and no landmarks once the shore drops below the horizon. The weather turns on a dime, currents drag you into empty abyss, and if your primitive raft breaks, nobody is coming to save you. To a Stone Age human standing on a beach, the ocean wasn't an invitation. It was a terrifying death trap. And yet, they built craft and paddled directly out into the blue. For a long time, historians believed humans only reached Australia around 50,000 years ago. But the 65,000-year-old stone axes and grinding tools discovered in Australia forced a massive rewrite of our timeline. Even at the absolute peak of the Ice Age, when global sea levels plummeted, Australia was never connected to Asia by a land bridge. The deep ocean trenches separating the two landmasses never closed. Between mainland Asia and Australia sits a biogeographical boundary called Wallacea. It's a group of islands surrounded by deep oceanic trenches that kept Asian land animals like tigers and elephants on one side and Australian marsupials on the other. No large land animal ever crossed Wallacea under its own power, except human beings. The earliest oceanic voyage in human history wasn't a lazy afternoon river float. It was a high-stakes, open-water expedition through some of the most unpredictable current-swift waters in the world. So why haven't we found these ancient boats? The answer is simple and brutal: organic decay. These early vessels were almost certainly crafted from bamboo, tree trunks, reeds, and rattan vines. In tropical coastal environments, heat, salt water, and humidity rot wood and organic fiber in a matter of decades. After 65,000 years, not a single wooden plank could possibly survive. But by looking at local natural resources, scientists realized that giant bamboo was the ultimate boat-building material. Bamboo stems are divided into naturally sealed, hollow air chambers. Even if the outer shell gets cracked, those inner chambers stay completely watertight and buoyant. By lashing giant bamboo logs together with ultra-tough rattan palm vines, Stone Age builders could construct stable, highly buoyant rafts capable of holding dozens of people. Here's the thing: ocean navigation wasn't just a lucky accident where people got blown off course. To survive long-distance travel, ancient mariners had to learn how to read the ocean like a living roadmap. They didn't have magnetic compasses, so they relied on deep ocean swells. Swells are long-period waves, generated by distant ocean storms, that travel unchanged for thousands of miles. Experienced sailors could feel the subtle rocking motion of their raft and know exactly which direction they were heading. Even better, when a swell hits a hidden island, it bends around it and creates a distinct crisscross interference pattern on the far side. A skilled navigator could feel that disrupted water and detect an unseen island long before it appeared on the horizon. During the day, they watched watercolor. Deep ocean blue turns to bright turquoise as the seafloor shoals near shallow reefs. They tracked floating debris like coconut husks and branches washed out by tropical rivers. But their most reliable compass was seabirds. Birds like terns and frigate birds fly out to ocean feeding grounds during the day but must return to land at night. In the late afternoon, an ancient navigator simply had to look up and follow the flight path of returning birds straight to shore. At night, the sky became a giant geometric grid. In the tropics, stars rise in the east and set in the west at steep, predictable angles. Navigators memorize star compasses, mental maps dividing the horizon into specific rising and setting points of key stars. Hold a course toward a rising star, and you are sailing dead east. When the sun set, the Milky Way arched across the pristine night sky, bright enough in the unpolluted darkness to cast subtle shadows on the deck. Navigators also timed their voyages with extreme precision, using seasonal wind patterns like trade winds and monsoons. Setting sail against strong headwinds or during cyclone season meant certain death. They waited for seasonal windows when winds temporarily reversed, giving them an extra edge. Deep below the wind-driven surface waves, massive ocean currents like the Kuroshio and South Equatorial currents acted as invisible expressways. Master navigators understood these current highways, using them to shave weeks off their travel time or compensating for drift to avoid being swept into empty ocean. What actually drove people to risk everything on these endless blue horizons? Population pressure on tiny islands was a massive driver. As island resources ran low, rival groups fought over land, forcing vanquished families to choose between conflict at home or a chance at a new life across the water. Environmental disasters like tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and rising post-Ice Age seas wiped out coastal settlements, leaving communities with zero options. Then there were social dynamics. In many island cultures, land passed exclusively to the oldest child, leaving younger siblings with no property and no power. For an ambitious younger traveler, organizing a voyage to find a new island was the ultimate way to become a legendary founder. And, of course, simple human curiosity played a role. The eternal itch to see what lies just past the horizon. All of these early maritime techniques culminated in the single greatest feat of navigation in human history, the Polynesian settlement of remote Oceania. The Pacific Ocean is vast, covering over 65 million square miles, larger than all the world's landmasses combined. Between 3,000 and 700 years ago, Polynesian voyagers discovered and settled virtually every single habitable island across the central and eastern Pacific, from Hawaii to New Zealand to Easter Island. Their secret weapon was the double-hulled voyaging canoe. By lashing two parallel wooden hulls together with a wide central platform, they created a ship that was practically impossible to capsize. It combined incredible stability with speed and could carry over 60 people, along with livestock, seed crops, and freshwater stores. Equipped with distinct triangular crab claw sails, these canoes could sail upwind, allowing navigators to explore deep into the ocean and, crucially, sail back home if they found nothing. Living on a voyaging canoe for weeks at a time was a masterclass in survival logistics. Freshwater was stored in sealed gourds and hollow bamboo tubes, supplemented by green coconuts and collected rainwater. Food consisted of high-calorie preserved staples like fermented taro paste, dried fish, and roasted breadfruit. They carried live pigs, chickens, and dogs to establish breeding populations on new islands. Navigators aimed for island target zones rather than tiny land dots by using target expansion, expanding a 1-mile island into a 30-mile target zone by cross-referencing bird flight paths, wave reflections, and cloud glows. Today, modern science uses mitochondrial DNA analysis, carbon-dated plant remains like the South American sweet potato found in ancient Polynesia, and complex computer simulations to map these ancient ocean routes. They confirm that these crossings were deliberate, highly skilled journeys, not random drift. What these ancient mariners built wasn't just a fleet of boats, it was an interconnected oceanic civilization. The oceans haven't changed. They remain as vast, blue, and intimidating as they were 65,000 years ago. The first unknown sailor who looked out over the open ocean in Wallacea and decided to build a craft to cross it set off a chain reaction that populated the furthest corners of our planet. Their names may be lost to history, but their legacy lives on in every culture, every language, and every human story forged across the open sea.